Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why cars die. The end of their lives, you get rid of them when these 3 things happen. During this video, all I'm doing is showing you some of my old vehicles or current vehicles that I've had. We'll talk through some of them. I'll talk about the problems I had, the ones I got rid of, why I did. I've been on this planet a long time. I'm in my 50s now. I've owned lots of vehicles. I've had lots of fun working on vehicles. So I think I know what I'm talking about, at least to a certain extent. Take some of it with a grain of salt. Hey, what's the #1 killer? So when I think about a vehicle and sort of the end of its life, at least in my hands, I'm talking about a vehicle that I probably had, or it's somewhere around 15, maybe even 20 years old, somewhere in that ballpark, but probably closer to 15. But what's the final straw that breaks the camel's back? #1, if the engine dies. So why would that be? Well, a new engine can be anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000 with, depending on how complicated it is. And if the vehicle's 15, 16, 17 years old, it's probably not worth much money anymore. So to invest all that money on a new engine, it doesn't make sense. I have had an engine die on me before. Maybe it was partly my fault. So an engine, if it is an interference engine with a timing belt, that means if the timing belt breaks, it will cause great damage to the engine, most likely. That happened to me. Cost me a new engine. I actually ended up buying one in that Honda Pilot you see in the pictures here in a minute. And I ended up selling it shortly after just to kind of move on with it. But that definitely was a killer. I'll tell you what, let's walk through all 3 of these different things that I think kind of end the life of a vehicle. And then let's go back and revisit them. Let's talk about engines a little bit more in a minute. Here's the #2 killer for vehicles. Transmissions. Yep. The transmission is an extremely expensive, probably the second most expensive part of your vehicle. So if you have an automatic transmission that goes out, that can be anywhere from $2,500, which would be very, very inexpensive, all the way up to maybe $4,000 or $5,000 easy. And now some of the newer vehicles that have more complicated transmissions, that can easily get a few $1,000s more than that. So if your vehicle's 15 years old, maybe it's not worth much money anymore, and all of a sudden the transmission goes out, that is definitely going to be a killer right there. That's going to be the end of the vehicle, at least as far as I'm concerned. And again, we'll circle back in just a minute. We'll talk about transmissions and how we can get them to last longer. But for now, here's my 3rd and final reason why, at least in my opinion, older vehicles die. Why I'm going to get rid of them, why I'm going to sell them. This right here that you're looking at is an F-150. I bought it with lots of paint damage. The clear coat's peeling, it makes it look white, it makes it look terrible. When I was in my 20s, that wouldn't bother me at all. In fact, I might wear it as a badge of honor, whatever. But a 50-year-old man with 3 kids, I don't want to be driving around something that looks nasty like this. Again, I don't need fancy cars at all. But at the same time, it was peeling so bad, it just didn't look good at all. It was really an eyesore. For that matter, I don't want my wife driving around a vehicle like that either. So the 3rd killer is the paint. You can see right here, I was trying to do some work on the hood. On the right-hand side, I'd cleaned it up a whole bunch. Really what I ended up doing is sanding the whole thing down, repainting it myself. It probably got 90% better, but even with that, it doesn't look the same. Am I gonna go spend $5,000 or $6,000 to get a professional paint job on a vehicle that's only worth a few $1,000s? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So for a vehicle like that one, I'm either going to save it for my son who will be driving soon. That's a good vehicle for like a 16-year-old. But as a 15-year-old man, excuse me, as a 50-year-old man, that's not the vehicle I want to be driving, at least not with the paint looking like that. Hey, so let's go back now and let's circle all the way back to the engines. Let's talk about engines. Let's talk about transmissions. Let's talk about the paint. So here's the plan I have on engines, at least. And for my vehicles, on 2 of them, on the Toyotas, it's recommended that I change the oil at 10,000 miles. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think I'm going to get 200 or 250,000 miles and 20 to 25 years out of a vehicle unless you're changing the oil more frequently than that. So what I personally do is 5,000 miles. I think that if you change the oil at 5,000 miles, and of course the oil filter too, if you do that on a regular basis, I think that you will get 200 to 250,000 miles out of that vehicle's engine. I think that's going to be across the board. And I think that that's going to work for Toyotas, Hondas, etc. So let's move on to the transmissions. On the transmissions, it drives me absolutely crazy that we no longer have dipsticks for the transmissions. On top of that, they're sealed transmissions is what they call it. Absolutely ridiculous. They say lifetime fluid. My opinion is that is absolute nonsense. Don't fall for that, because what they say lifetime, maybe they're saying, well, a vehicle should only last 100,000 miles. Then you should get a new one. That's not my opinion at all. Again, I want to be going 25 years on these with 250,000 miles. And if you're going to do that, you need to change the transmission fluid on a regular basis. Here's what I personally do. I do a drain and fill. So I just drain it out. Usually it's about 3 to 3.5 quarts, and I fill it up with that 3 to 3.5 quarts. Of course, that is not getting all the fluid. I fully understand. What it is doing though, is it's getting some new fluid into there, and it's pulling obviously some of that out. So the number one killer of transmissions is heat and contaminants, and we just want to be introducing new fluid on a regular basis. So again, every 30,000 miles, I do a drain and fill. And as the vehicles get older, once they hit about 100,000 miles, I will do 2 drain and fills. So every 30,000 miles, I'll do a drain and fill. I'll drive it around the block for a day, or maybe drive it for a day, and then I'll do a second drain and fill. Again, every 30,000 miles, and I think that will get you in almost every transmission 250,000 miles. So here's my final one, the paint. So on the paint, is there a way that we can get our paint and protect it from fading, protect it from peeling? Yes, absolutely. So if you're waxing your paint on a regular basis, maybe 3 to 4 times a year, that will definitely help your paint from fading and the clear coat from peeling. However, I am too lazy. I'm simply not going to do that, and I think I speak for most people. Will I wax it every once in a while? Yes, but that's not really going to do it. So here's the plan that I've come up with. In today's day and age, we have waxes that are also sealers, and those sealers are really designed to protect the paint. It's in fact, they're designed more to protect it than to make it look like a traditional, let's say a turtle wax that would really make it shine and really make it like showroom shine. So some of these newer ones that are more of a sealer wax, they don't have that same shine, but what they do is they add a great layer of protection from the sun. So what I do is, first of all, for the first 10 years I own the vehicles, I don't do anything to the paint. I do not even wax them. Once my vehicles hit 10 years old, I put on a wax sealer, and I have a really good one. I'll put it down in the description down below. You can take a look. But I put that wax sealer on once a year, right before summer, and that's it. I put on a thick coat, and I only put it on about half the paint. Yep, call me lazy if you want to. Go ahead. But I only put it on the areas where the sun really hits hard on the vehicle. So like the bottom half, the doors, no, I don't put it on that part. But the top parts, the hood, those more exposed areas, that's where I make sure that I put that sealer. And again, I only start at 10 years, and then I apply that once a year, and it has helped greatly. Hey friends, I hope today's video helped you out. I'd love to hear your opinion on what I have to say. Maybe you completely agree with me, maybe you completely disagree, but put some comments down below. We'll try to get some conversations going. And if you have any questions about what I'm doing, put them down there. I'll read it. I'll do my best to answer them. All right, friends, we'll see you next time.